In this section of training, we'll be exploring the blending drill procedure. We'll offer some important background information, go over some critical tips for teachers, and do a brief demonstration of the procedure. In most OG lessons, a blending drill immediately follows the visual drill. Just as the visual drill, the blending drill should be brief and take no more than 2 or 3 minutes to complete. The purpose of a blending drill is to apply the known sounds to decode syllables. In a blending drill, a majority of the patterns will be nonsense words. It is not an exercise in becoming accurate and automatic on nonsense or make-believe words. Instead, the purpose of this activity is to teach students to rely on their sound symbol knowledge to decode. This ensures that they're not simply recognizing words by sight. Thinking for just a moment about the importance of decoding unknown syllables, a majority of multisyllabic words are composed of nonsense syllables. Take a look at the examples on the screen. The goal of a blending drill is to support students to be able to whole word read. When we talk about whole word reading, we're referring to the process of seeing letters as a unit and pronouncing them. Looking at the example on the screen, the pattern S-O-T, when read as a whole word, would be pronounced sot. The process of sounding the word out, s-a-t, and then blending it together, sot, is what we call sound-by-sound blending. Why is it so important to whole word read? Well, as students progress to more difficult words, base words with suffixes or multisyllabic words, or even one-syllable words with many phonemes, it's very difficult to support students to sound them out accurately. Taking a look at the example on your screen, if students stay in the stage of sound-by-sound blending, the words below would sound like this: s, t, r, I, p, s. It's often difficult for students to hang on to all of those phonemes in their head long enough to go back and blend those units together. If we can support students to see the pattern stripes, they will be more accurate and fluent decoders. Looking at the second example of the two-syllable word, if students stay in sound-by-sound blending, they would decode the word as k, a, l, a, p, s, and hopefully be able to go back and retrieve the word collapse. This is not as effective as being able to whole word read, which would involve reading one syllable at a time, or cull-lapse, collapse. Pushing students to whole word read is an important stage in being able to progress to more difficult content. Just as in the visual drill, teacher and student placement is important. We encourage you to keep students in the meeting area seated as close as possible to the teacher. If the teacher has a blending board available, you'll find that displaying cards and card management is much easier. If a blending board is not available, a chalkboard ledge or pocket chart might come in handy. Think about the different piles of cards that have been discarded in a visual drill. Make sure that those cards in pile 0, which will contain visuals and other tools for reviewing concepts, are set aside. We will not use those in the blending drill. Pile 1 will contain cards in the initial position. Pile 2 will contain vowels. Pile 3 will contain cards in the final position. As you transition these cards from your lap or board to your blending board, make sure that they are in the right position from your student's perspective. In a blending drill, the teacher is the facilitator. The teacher should not be pronouncing the sounds and blending the syllables with the students. Instead, the teacher is going to provide visual supports and prompts so that students know when to respond. This takes us to the idea of stages of blending. When students are in the sound-by-sound stage, the teacher may tap the top of the cards with their hand to indicate that students should say the sounds. Then the teacher may go back and run their hand along the top of the cards to visually tell students it's time to blend those sounds together. When students are in the whole word reading stage, they should simply pronounce the syllable each time a card is flipped. If students struggle to respond chorally, the teacher may opt to tap the top of the blending board as a visual to let students know it is time to respond and read the syllable. In the earliest stages of blending, we encourage flipping only one card at a time. This provides students with more support. As they progress, it may be possible to flip multiple cards at one time, making the task more challenging. Let's look a little more deeply at the stages of blending. The first stage of sound-by-sound blending is typically where instruction begins in our OG lessons in kindergarten. Students say the sounds in isolation, s, t, and then go back and blend those sounds together to decode the syllable sat. Most students are able to move from sound-by-sound blending to whole word reading with teacher modeling and support. If that is a difficult transition for students to make, you are encouraged to work through Stage 2 and Stage 3 below. Stage 2 is beginning dragging. Beginning dragging may be helpful for students who are having a difficult time going back and decoding words accurately after they have sounded them out. Or it may be necessary for students who are just having a difficult time transitioning to whole word reading. In beginning dragging, we take graphemes with continuous consonant sounds and place them in the beginning position. Continuous sounds are sounds that we're able to hold on to and pronounce for an extended period of time until we run out of breath. Looking at the list, for example, the sound for the letter S, s. You can say that sound and drag it out as long as you need to. By placing these continuous sounds in the beginning position of our blending drill, we're able to model for students the process of dragging sounds together. What we're trying to accomplish is getting the student to hang on to one sound until they pick up the other one, and then finally pronounce the final sound. When this is done, we're modeling for students the idea of whole word reading that is continuous, and not the segmented pronunciation of sounds. What this would sound like with the same example would be s-a-t. With that initial consonant being continuous, it supports our ability to hang on to it long enough to recognize and pronounce the vowel. Vowels are, by nature, continuous. Once we've pronounced this pattern, sat, we don't want to go back and pronounce the syllable again. It is our goal to quickly speed up that dragging process so that students don't have to hang on to those sounds for an extended period of time, moving from sat to sat. In Stage 3, intermediate dragging, the shift here is that we're no longer controlling the continuous consonants in the initial position. We're placing any consonant in the initial position and shifting toward just dragging the vowel sound in the middle position. Despite providing support working through the stages of blending, there will still be a handful of students who struggle to accomplish this task. On this screen, we offer some suggestions for supporting these at-risk students. One of the things that we need to do is make sure that we're only including in our blending drill those sounds for which students have accurate and automatic recognition. Students will struggle to blend if they're struggling to retrieve the appropriate sound. The next thing we need to do is provide a modified blending drill practice. We can begin by only changing one card at a time. Again, we'll focus our attention on dragging or sliding sounds together. If we take a look at the chart on this page, here are some stages that we may need to work through to provide even more support. One of the things that we can do is focus on blending in an onset and rhyme setting. Taking a look at the example of k, app, changing just the initial position would help students work through k, app, t, app, l, app. Changing the initial position and providing that support of the same rhyme should give students some structure to be more successful. We may also opt to include only 2 phonemes in our blending drill. As a tip, blending open syllables where the vowel says its name or its long sound is often easier for struggling students. Take away that final position card and only work on blending open syllables, as in me, go, hi. Changing only one card at a time would be more supportive. We can then shift to reading closed syllables with 2 phonemes. The change here would be now taking away the initial position card and adding back the final position card so that the vowel is closed in making its short sound. We should still stick with the practice of changing only one card at a time. Once students are successful here, we can go back to the goal of adding a third position card, a 3-phoneme card pattern. Looking at our 4-phoneme syllable example, this would involve adding a yellow blend card in our initial or final position. Another important function of a blending drill is our ability to practice and reinforce students' understanding of syllable types. In early OG lessons, we work on blending open and closed syllables. We're able to do that through our positioning of cards and card management. For students to see and blend closed syllables, we'll maintain the structure of initial consonants in Pile 1, vowels in Pile 2, and final consonant patterns in Pile 3. To shift to decoding open syllables, we will simply cover or remove the cards in Pile 3 to display an open syllable. Again, supporting students through their stages of blending works with both of these syllable types. When we're doing a blending drill, our goal is to work through all of the vowels. It isn't critical to get through every consonant in the initial or final position. When students make mistakes in a blending drill, we simply draw attention to the pattern that they missed. If pointing to the card is not enough support for students to fix their mistake, we often provide supports through either visual cues, questions, or providing the keyword. We might make the short vowel hand signal. Use your B checker. Ask what type of syllable is this, or say the keyword is cat. When students have made a mistake on a card, we prefer to keep that card in place a little while longer to give the students additional repetition and practice with that pattern or card. In just a moment, you will have an opportunity to watch a brief video demonstration of a blending drill. To help understand what's occurring in the brief video, I'd like to review what's on the screen. At the top of the screen, you'll see a portion of Training Lesson Number 2 from your lesson plan packet. On the left-hand side, where it says Blending Drill, you'll see that cards are listed in recommended positions. To the right is a reference for teachers regarding the known syllable types that should be practiced in the blending drill. In the video, pay attention to the pace in which the blending drill is delivered and how the teacher provides support to students when miscues or errors are made.
All right, so teachers, as you saw when I finished my visual drill, I had my cards on the table in front of me face down in 4 piles. I have here pile 0, which I'm going to set aside and not use in my blending drill. And then I have pile 1, pile 2, and pile 3. And this is what commonly happens to me when I flip over my cards, and that is I have my cards in the wrong position. So what I need to do is I need to move the ones that are here in the beginning and put them in the 3rd position, and put the ones in the 3rd position in the 1st. And now I'm ready to begin my blending drill. So what you're going to see when I start with my student Lucas is you're going to see I'm first going to talk through with him closed syllables and open syllables. That's an optional step. If your kids are comfortable with the blending drill process, you don't need to do that. So with that, we'll get started with Lucas. All right, Lucas, are you ready to do a blending drill?
Yes.
All right, so as we talk, this is a closed syllable. So a closed syllable has how many vowels?
1.
And it ends with a
Consonant.
And the vowel in a closed syllable says it's
Sound.
perfect. And this is an open syllable. And an open syllable has
1 vowel.
And it ends with a
Vowel.
And so in an open syllable, the vowel says it's
Name.
perfect. All right. So we're going to do in this drill flex back and forth a little bit between open and closed syllables. All right. So this word says
Zat. Sat. Sought. Sock. So.
nice.
Wog. Wig. Why.
Good.
Wicks. Kicks. Kai. Cucks. Cup. Rup. Rep. Re. Reb. Queb. Quab. Quad. Jad. Fad. Fed. Fee.
Nicely done. We'll stop with that. Excellent job, sir. Thank you very much.
Your instructor will provide directions on blending drill practice with your partner. This concludes the Blending Drill Basic portion of training.